This is my grandmother, Lorraine Rose. I call her Nana, which is Italian for grandma. Nana was born in 1942 in Glen Cove, Long Island, New York. She grew up in a small town, Oyster Bay, where she was the only girl of 4 siblings in a family of 7. Nana states that Oyster Bay was a close-knit community where everyone was always friendly and she felt as if she knew just about everyone. In this interview, I asked Nana a couple of questions about her life throughout the 1960s. Let's hear what she has to say. So, what was your recollection of the Civil Rights Movement?
Well, that was during a time, remembering that I lived in the North. I lived in a small town that I went to school with, blacks and whites together. We cheered on cheering teams for different squads together. We were in class together. It was just everyday life for everyone. We were all friends. And then I went to school in Danville, Virginia, which is the South. So it was shocking to me. I would board a bus and I would go to the back of the bus and I was told I couldn't sit there. And there were, just a lot of turmoil. You could feel the anxiety among everyone there. But it was so different from the way I grew up. So I was experiencing something firsthand.
There were a lot of war protests throughout the 1960s. Were you friends with a lot of people who were drafted to fight in Vietnam?
I had some friends that did go to war, did go to Vietnam and were drafted. And I recall some that were determined to leave the country and wanted to dodge the draft. But even if you didn't know anyone, you were surrounded by it, by the media, by just going to the city and you would see all the protests and many debates and differences of opinions and so many that did not want to go, or did not believe in the war or the fight of the cause.
Tell me about the foundations of the feminist movement, like birth control and anti-abortion. Can you elaborate?
Well, being raised Catholic, of course, there were lots of questions because birth control and abortion, as you know, as being Catholic, would be what they would not want us to follow. But for me, it was getting married at that time. I was pleased to see that we had choices, that women could choose what was best for them, and that we had the right to do that. It changed, made a lot of changes for women.
In the first clip shown, Nana explains what she was experiencing in the North. She experienced integration, where she could play sports with blacks and whites and everyone was treated equal. When Nana moved to the South, she experienced a completely new way of living, because in the South, integration had not been introduced or implemented. Nana talks about having to sit in the front of buses, opposed to the back where the blacks were forced to sit. Her story connects with the larger historical framework of how blacks and whites were segregated in the 1960s. In the second clip shown, Nana explains that some of her friends did dodge the draft by moving to different countries. She further explains that even if you didn't know anyone who was getting drafted, you were constantly surrounded by it, with the media, protests throughout the cities, etc. Nana's statement connects to the larger framework because many demonstrators and protesters were injured, even killed, for trying to end the draft. In the last clip, Nana explains that there were some roadblocks for women who also practiced the Catholic faith. Because Catholics did not believe in abortions, it changed a number of women's lives, but not all women had the option. She states that she was glad to see women's hard work in fighting for these particular rights, and she was comforted in knowing that women now had options. Nana's story can be connected to the larger framework because it took women a long time and a lot of hard work in protests, marches, and meetings to make these rights possible for women. Thank you, Nana, for taking your time out of your Easter weekend and sharing your story about your life in the 60s. I know I benefited from it, and I think the whole U.S. history class, period 1, will also benefit from it. So thank you.
Thank you, Elsie. I'm honored to do it with you. Always a pleasure for you. Thank you so much. It was fun.
Your family was like, and your siblings.
I have 4 siblings.
Ready?
Go.
Are you ready going?
I'm going.
Okay, we'll restart.
Sorry. Go, hounds, go.